That bottle sitting next to your sink right now. The one you squeeze without thinking. The one you hand to your kids after the playground. The one your office keeps stocked by every door. It might contain methanol, a toxic alcohol that causes blindness and brain damage, or cancer-linked benzene that accumulates in your blood with every pump. In 2020, the FDA quietly flagged hundreds of hand sanitizer products containing outright poison. Most brands never made headlines. Most are still on shelves today. Here are 10 you need to throw out immediately and 2 that actually protect you without destroying you in the process. 10. Purell Advanced, the clear bottle, the blue cap. The brand hospitals hang on every wall and parents trust without question. Purell spent decades building the most recognized hand sanitizer name on Earth. When doctors use it, you assume it's safe. That's exactly what Johnson & Johnson counts on. Here's what they don't advertise. In 2019, Purell faced serious regulatory action from the FDA. The agency issued a warning letter directly to Gojo Industries, Purell's manufacturer, accusing them of making illegal drug claims. Purell's marketing suggested their product could prevent MRSA, flu, Ebola, and norovirus. The FDA's position was unambiguous. No hand sanitizer has been proven to prevent specific infections. Purell was selling unverified medical protection to scared parents and hospital administrators. But the ingredient problem goes deeper. Purell Advanced uses ethyl alcohol as its active ingredient, which is standard. What isn't standard is the cocktail of inactive ingredients surrounding it. Isopropyl myristate, a penetration enhancer, actively helps other chemicals absorb deeper into your skin. Parabens used as preservatives. Synthetic fragrances that trigger respiratory issues in children with asthma. Squeeze a pump right now. Notice how it disappears into your skin almost instantly, absorbing far faster than plain alcohol should. That's the penetration enhancers working, dragging everything else in with it. For children using this 10 times daily at school, those synthetic compounds accumulate. For pregnant women using hospital grade. Purell throughout their 3rd trimester, penetration enhancers carry everything straight through skin barriers. Trust the hospital brand, trust the lawsuit, waiting to happen. 9. Bath & Body Works PocketBac, the tiny colorful bottle, sold in packs of 5 with cheerful scents called Gingham, Warm Vanilla Sugar, and Hello Beautiful, marketed directly at teenage girls and tweens. Small enough to clip onto backpacks, cute enough to collect, toxic enough to warrant serious concern. Bath & Body Works loads PocketBac with synthetic fragrance compounds. The word fragrance on any ingredient label is a legal black hole. Companies are not required to disclose what chemicals create that scent. A single fragrance listing can represent up to 3,000 individual chemical compounds. Some are harmless, others are phthalates, chemicals linked to hormone disruption, early puberty in girls, and reduced testosterone in boys. Testing by the Environmental Working Group flagged multiple Bath & Body Works hand sanitizer products for containing fragrance chemicals associated with allergic reactions, neurotoxicity, and endocrine disruption. The company never acknowledged the findings. The cute bottles kept selling. Open one right now. The synthetic floral scent hits you before the gel even touches your skin. That's not lavender, that's a laboratory simulation of lavender, engineered from petroleum-derived compounds. For kids with fragrance sensitivities, one application triggers headaches, rashes, and respiratory irritation. For parents who bought a 10-pack because they seemed harmless and fun, you handed your daughter a hormone disruptor in a polka dot bottle. 8. Germ X, America's 2nd biggest hand sanitizer brand. Available everywhere from dollar stores to hospital gift shops. Priced to move millions of units. And priced so low that the ingredient quality tells you everything. Germ-X uses denatured alcohol, which sounds clinical and precise until you understand what denatured actually means. Denaturants are additives mixed into ethanol specifically to make it undrinkable. The problem is the choice of denaturant matters enormously. Some are safe. Others include compounds that cause skin absorption of toxic byproducts with repeated daily use. Independent testing identified concerning levels of acetaldehyde in multiple Germ-X batches. Acetaldehyde is classified by the International Agency for Research on Cancer as a possible human carcinogen. It forms during alcohol fermentation and processing. Quality manufacturers filter it out. Budget manufacturers don't, because filtration costs money. Pump Germ X onto your hands and let it dry completely. Smell your hands afterward. That faint chemical odor that lingers after the alcohol evaporates. That's not nothing. That's acetaldehyde residue sitting on your skin. For seniors using hand sanitizer dozens of times daily in care facilities, that residue accumulates. For cancer survivors trying to eliminate every unnecessary carcinogen exposure, Germ X adds one with every pump. Cheap pricing, carcinogen byproducts. Your health wasn't part of the cost calculation. 7. Equate hand sanitizer from Walmart. Walmart's house brand. Impossibly cheap. Sitting right next to the name, brands at a fraction of the price. Looks identical, same clear gel, same alcohol percentage on the label, smells roughly similar, but the economics don't add up. Pharmaceutical-grade ethanol costs real money to source, purify, and test. Quality sanitizer manufacturers run batch testing, verify alcohol concentrations, screen for contaminants. Equate sells enormous jugs for prices that make that level of quality control mathematically impossible. In 2020, FDA surveillance testing flagged multiple store-brand sanitizers manufactured through the same bulk supply chains Walmart uses for Equate products. The specific concern was inconsistent alcohol concentration. A sanitizer labeled 65% ethanol that actually contains 40% ethanol doesn't kill viruses. It gives you false confidence while leaving pathogens fully alive on your hands. You squeeze. Equate thinking you're protected. You touch your face. You're not protected. You just think you are. For families who switched to Equate during the pandemic to save money during shortages, that savings might have cost more than the price difference. Zero origin transparency. Zero published testing data. Just a Walmart label and a price point designed to move units. 6. Bloomin' Hand Sanitizer. This one isn't a warning. It's a documented disaster. In 2020, the FDA placed Bloomin' Hand Sanitizer on its do not use list after laboratory testing confirmed the products contain methanol. Not ethanol. Methanol. Wood alcohol. The same substance that poisoned bootleg liquor drinkers during Prohibition. The same chemical that causes permanent blindness, seizures, permanent neurological damage, and death. Bloomin', manufactured by 4E Global in Mexico, was distributed through discount retailers across the United States during the height of pandemic sanitizer shortages. Families who couldn't find Purell or Germ X grabbed whatever was available. Thousands of people applied methanol directly to their skin multiple times daily, absorbing poison while believing they were protecting their health. The FDA's warning was explicit. Do not use, do not purchase, dispose of immediately. Yet weeks after the initial warning, independent investigators found Bloomin' products still sitting on discount store shelves, still being purchased by families who missed the news. The company never issued a formal public recall. They simply stopped shipping, while old inventory quietly sold through. Methanol absorbs through skin. It doesn't require swallowing. Repeated skin exposure accumulates in your bloodstream. Symptoms of methanol poisoning include headache, nausea, blurred vision, and in severe cases, permanent blindness and organ failure. For children who used this product during school reopenings in 2020, the exposure window was months long. For seniors in facilities where staff used bulk discount sanitizer, nobody warned them. They just kept pumping poison onto their hands every hour of every day. Bloomin' earned its FDA listing. The damage was already done. 5. The Good Gel Antibacterial Hand Sanitizer. The name is almost insulting given what's inside. The Good Gel. Marketed with clean packaging, an approachable font, and positioning that targets health-conscious shoppers who want something that sounds wholesome and trustworthy. The Good Gel was among dozens of products included in FDA warning actions in 2020 after testing revealed methanol contamination in its formulation. The brand, also sourced from Mexican manufacturing facilities operating without adequate quality controls, entered U.S. distribution channels during peak pandemic demand when oversight was stretched thin and importers were moving product faster than regulators could screen it. Here's what makes the Good Gel particularly frustrating. The branding specifically targets people who are paying attention to ingredients, clean design, wellness-adjacent language, the kind of packaging that sits next to organic products at boutique retailers. Consumers who were actively trying to make better choices got deceived harder than the people who just grabbed whatever was cheapest. For wellness shoppers who trusted that aesthetic, the label lied. For cancer survivors using hand sanitizer constantly during immunocompromised recovery periods, methanol exposure directly attacks the nervous system already weakened by treatment. The good gel. Nothing good about methanol poisoning. 4. Clean care. No germ. Another FDA flag methanol product. Another Mexican manufacturer. Another brand that flooded US markets during 2020 when legitimate supply chains collapsed and desperate importers filled the gap with whatever they could source. Clean care. No germ. Tested positive for methanol contamination in independent FDA laboratory analysis. The brand's entire marketing premise, no germ, promises protection it cannot deliver, while simultaneously delivering contamination it doesn't disclose. The irony would be darkly funny if people hadn't been absorbing neurotoxins while feeling protected. What happened with Clean Care illustrates a systemic failure nobody talks about. During the pandemic, import volume overwhelmed FDA screening capacity. Hundreds of methanol-contaminated products entered the country before testing could catch them. By the time warnings appeared, products had already been purchased, opened, and used for weeks. For first responders who use bulk hand sanitizer constantly during 2020, the contamination exposure was massive. For teachers who applied sanitizer before every class period during school reopenings, no one told them to check the FDA warning list. They just kept going. Never trust a hand sanitizer label without checking the FDA database first. Your nervous system depends on it. 3. Scent theory. Hand sanitizer, back to the fragrance problem, but amplified. Scent theory built its hand sanitizer line entirely around the sensory experience. Rich fragrances, moisturizing claims, packaging that looks like it belongs in a luxury bathroom. The marketing positions this as elevated sanitizer for people who want protection without the clinical smell. What scent theory actually delivers is one of the heaviest synthetic fragrance loads of any hand sanitizer on the market, combined with a preservative system that includes methylaceothiazolinone, commonly abbreviated as MI. The EUMAU Scientific Committee on Consumer Safety has classified MI as not safe for leave-on cosmetic products. Hand sanitizer is a leave-on product. You apply it and it sits on your skin until you wash your hands. Every compound in it absorbs. I has been linked to contact dermatitis, chemical burns with prolonged exposure, and sensitization. That means once your skin becomes reactive to MI, even tiny exposures trigger severe reactions for the rest of your life. European regulators banned MI from leave-on products entirely. American regulators allow it because the FDA hand sanitizer category operates under outdated guidelines that haven't been meaningfully updated since 1994. Open scent theory, and the fragrance hits instantly. Overwhelming, synthetic. The kind of scent engineered in a laboratory to trigger pleasure responses while hiding what sits underneath it. For anyone with skin sensitivities, 1 week of daily use can trigger sensitization that never fully reverses. For kids already prone to eczema, this accelerates flares and creates new reactive pathways. Luxury packaging. Chemical sensitizer inside. You paid extra to damage your skin barrier. 2. Lavar Setenta. Also marketed as Lavar 70 and Lavar Gel Setenta in some markets. Another product flagged in the FDA's 2020 methanol contamination sweep. Another Mexican manufacturer operating without adequate quality controls. But Lavar has an additional layer of deception that deserves specific attention. Lavar products were marketed at Hispanic communities in the United States through Spanish language advertising and distribution, through grocery chains serving Latino neighborhoods. The targeting was deliberate. Spanish language health messaging about methanol risks reached those communities far more slowly than English language FDA alerts. By the time warnings were widely circulating in Spanish, families had been using contaminated product for weeks. This isn't coincidence. This is how consumer fraud compounds into something more sinister. You don't just sell a dangerous product. You sell it specifically through channels where regulatory warning systems move more slowly, where trust in branded packaging runs high because alternatives were historically harder to access, where families already stretched thin during a pandemic weren't cross-checking FDA warning lists before every purchase. For elderly Latino community members using Lavar in their homes while caring for grandchildren during lockdowns, methanol exposure wasn't a regulatory abstraction. It was happening at kitchen sinks and bathroom counters across communities that deserved protection and received silence instead. 2 documented disasters down. 1 absolute worst offender left. And this one had executives who knew exactly what they were selling. 1. ESC Biochem SADCV. This is where documented negligence becomes something harder to explain away. ESC Biochem, a Mexican chemical manufacturer, produced multiple hand sanitizer brands that flooded the American market in 2020. The FDA tested their products and found methanol concentrations so high they exceeded any possible explanation of accidental contamination. These were not quality control failures. These were products where methanol was used as the primary alcohol instead of ethanol, because methanol costs significantly less to produce. The FDA sent ESC Biochem a formal warning letter in June 2020, demanding an immediate recall. The company did not respond. They did not cooperate. They did not issue recalls. Federal investigators found that ESC Biochem continued operating and continued shipping product after receiving direct regulatory action. The brands connected to their manufacturing included Limpiapur, Manos Limpias, Saniderm, and multiple generic and store-label products distributed through American retail channels. These were not rogue batches. This was systematic. ESC Biochem knew what they were manufacturing. They knew methanol causes blindness and death. They shipped it anyway because pandemic demand was enormous, oversight was strained, and the profit margin on cheap methanol versus pharmaceutical ethanol was significant. Every decision was calculated. Your health was priced against their production costs and found to be worth less. The FDA eventually pursued import alerts preventing ESC Biochem products from entering the United States. But the products already here, on shelves, in homes, being pumped onto children's hands in schools, nobody came to collect those. Parents who missed a single news cycle had no idea. They just kept sanitizing. For anyone who used ESC Biochem-linked products during the first year of the pandemic, the exposure was real. For children who held out their hands at classroom doors while teachers pumped methanol onto their palms, the adults around them failed. Corporate greed dressed as public health. That is ESC Biochem. And that is number 1. Go check every hand sanitizer in your house right now. Your car, your purse, your kids' backpacks, your office desk. If you see Bloomin', The Good Gel, Clean Care, No Germ, Lavar, or anything from ESC Biochem, do not finish the bottle. Do not use up what's left. Methanol poisoning that is cumulative. Every additional pump makes it worse. Throw them out immediately. And if you've been using any of these for months without knowing, talk to your doctor. Symptoms of chronic low-level methanol exposure are frequently misdiagnosed. Now, here's what actually works. Safe, pick one. Touchland Power. Mist. Finally, a hand sanitizer built by people who understood that the formula matters as much as the function. Touchland Power Mist uses 70% pharmaceutical-grade ethanol. The concentration, the CDC and WHO both recommend as the effective threshold for killing bacteria and viruses. Not 60%, not 62%, 70. Verified through third-party batch testing with published results you can actually look up. But here's what separates Touchland from every cut-rate alternative. Their inactive ingredient list was built with skin health in mind, not production cost reduction. Hyaluronic acid for moisture retention. Aloe vera extract from organic sources. No parabens, no phthalates. No synthetic fragrance compounds. No penetration enhancers pulling harmful chemicals deeper into your skin. Every ingredient declared and explicable. Open a Touchland Power Mist, and the spray is fine, even, and fast absorbing. No sticky residue, no lingering chemical smell. Your hands don't feel stripped the way they do after most alcohol sanitizers. The moisture barrier stays intact, because Touchland actually formulated for the reality that people use hand sanitizer dozens of times daily, not once in a while. Skin that's been compromised by repeated sanitizer use absorbs pathogens more easily. Protecting your skin barrier is part of protecting you from infection. Touchland publishes its sourcing. They publish their testing. They list every inactive ingredient with explanations of why it's included. Compare that to every brand we just exposed. No sourcing, no published testing, no explanations, just a label and a price point. For healthcare workers sanitizing their hand 40 to 60 times per shift, Touchland's formula prevents the cracked skin and compromised barriers that make frequent sanitizing counterproductive. Real protection without the destruction. Safe pick 2. Xylast. Antiseptic lotion. If Touchland represents the best of consumer-grade hand sanitizer, Xylast represents what happens when you formulate from medical evidence rather than marketing instinct. Xylast was developed specifically for healthcare environments, where standard alcohol sanitizers were failing. The core problem with most hand sanitizers is persistence. Alcohol kills pathogens on contact, but the protection vanishes the moment the alcohol evaporates, usually within 30 seconds. Touch a contaminated surface 60 seconds after using standard sanitizer, and you're fully exposed again. Xylast uses a patented benzethonium chloride technology combined with 70% ethanol. The ethanol provides immediate kill on contact. The benzethonium chloride creates a residual antimicrobial layer that continues providing protection on skin for up to 4 hours after application. Independent clinical studies conducted in hospital settings confirmed Xylast's persistent efficacy against norovirus, MRSA, and influenza strains after a single application. The formula contains no synthetic fragrance, no parabens, no phthalates, no penetration enhancers. The lotion base actually improves skin condition with repeated use rather than degrading it the way pure alcohol formulas do. Hospital dermatology units tested it specifically because hand hygiene compliance was dropping among staff with chronic dry, cracked skin from standard sanitizers. Xylast solved both problems simultaneously. Scoop a small amount and apply it. It absorbs completely within seconds, leaving no visible residue, no greasy film, no scent. Your hands feel clean because they are for longer than any other formula on this list can deliver. For seniors in care facilities where exposure risk is constant and hand sanitizing frequency is high, Xylast's persistent protection and gentle formula addresses exactly the 2 failure points that make standard sanitizers dangerous for daily heavy use. For parents of immunocompromised children who need genuine protection, not marketing language dressed as protection, this is the standard everything else should be measured against. And there you have it. From methanol poisoning disguised as pandemic protection to hormone disruptors in backpack-sized bottles with cheerful labels, we've laid out exactly what the hand sanitizer industry has been putting on your hands and your children's hands without your knowledge or consent. Corporate shortcuts turned a simple protective product into a health risk for the families trying hardest to stay safe. But real options still exist. Touchland proves you can formulate clean without cutting corners. Xylast proves medical-grade protection doesn't require compromising on safety. Small choices at the shelf protect your family for years.